My husband transferred my inheritance to his mistress while I was undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. So I turned their perfect life into a nightmare. Revenge was sweet. But before we continue, please tell us where you're from and how old you are. We love getting to know our audience. Enjoy listening. I remember that day almost down to the minute. The hospital. White walls. The strong smell of antiseptic. I was lying on a cot, getting my third round of chemotherapy. My hands were shaking from exhaustion and meds, and my mouth tasted like metal, like I had just swallowed nails. The doctor said, "Clara, the most important thing right now is rest." The nurse smiled and added, "Don't think about bad things, just relax." But how do you relax when your life is falling apart? I grabbed my phone to pay for some lab work in the app, a normal thing. But my fingers slipped, and I accidentally tapped the account statement section. I'd never looked at it before. That was always Igor's job, my husband. He insisted, "Clara, you shouldn't be stressing right now. I'm handling everything. You just need to get well." But something inside me pushed me to look. I scrolled through the recent transactions. And there it was, the first blow. 3 large transfers. One of them was for 346,000 rubles. My heart dropped into my stomach. I reread the recipient's name over and over. Alina Morozova. My throat went dry. I knew that name all too well. She was the one Igor had hired a few months back, the one who came to our house with thermoses, pretending to care about my nutrition, talking about energy practices and inner light. I truly believed she was just a consultant. A helper. Someone Igor was paying to ease his burden. I even thanked him for it. How foolish I was. Everything suddenly clicked. His retreats, long evening walks, breathing exercises, and that odd glow in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. I lay there in that hospital bed with a needle in my arm, feeling my body go numb. I had been betrayed. Robbed. They had used my illness as a cover. I slowly set the phone down on the bedside table. And in that moment, in the darkest, deepest corner of my soul, a decision was born: I would survive. Not just for myself, but to watch everything they built fall apart before his eyes. I was done being weak. Done being convenient. Done walking away in silence. When I got home after the session, I was barely holding on. Dizzy, nauseous, and weak. But underneath it all, a quiet rage was burning inside me. Cold, controlled, and powerful, it held me upright. Igor wasn't home. He said he went to buy healthy groceries. But I knew. He was probably at her place. Her new apartment. Paid for with my money. I opened his laptop. He always left it unlocked, convinced Clara was too weak, Clara was bedridden, Clara wouldn't notice. But I did. And I found more than I expected. A folder labeled Future Projects. Inside, a lease contract for a big apartment with a balcony, a lake view, expensive furniture. Paid from our joint account. The lease was in her name. Alina Morozova. But Igor paid. I felt the blood drain from my face. That moment when your brain hasn't fully processed the betrayal, but your body already knows, every cell is screaming, fight back. But I didn't scream. I didn't lash out. I closed the laptop, lay down, and started thinking. That evening, Igor came home like nothing happened. He brought me juice. Patted my shoulder. Said, "You need your strength, everything will be fine, I'm here for you." And I looked at him, thinking, no, you're with her, in every sense. With me, you stay out of pity. And for the money. But I smiled weakly. Tiredly. As if I still believed. Because now I had a plan. And from that moment, every step he took became evidence for my case. In the following days, I became even quieter. Weaker. I stayed in bed longer, ate less, moved slower, part of the act. Igor, relieved by my apparent helplessness, stopped hiding. He spoke to her on the phone right in the kitchen, thinking I couldn't hear. He'd say he was going to the store but would disappear for hours. Came home late, smelling like unfamiliar perfume and wearing the smile that used to be mine, now hers. Alina became bolder, too. She came over almost daily with juices and herbs, stroked my hand like I was a sick child, and whispered about the power of positive thinking and mental healing. Hypocrisy that made me want to scream. But I stayed silent. I let her arrange her flowers in my living room, open my fridge, organize my meds, all while I was collecting evidence. Every night, while they thought I was asleep, I took photos of account statements, screenshots of chats, receipts Igor carelessly left on the counter. And the more I gathered, the clearer the picture became. Their plan was simple: wait until I completely broke down, then take everything. One night, as he stood in the doorway, he casually said, "Don't worry. If things get worse, I know what to do. Everything will be under control." I nodded, smiled faintly. But inside, I thought, oh yes, Igor. Everything will be under control. Just not yours. That night, I made my final decision: I wouldn't just survive. I would win. The next morning, Igor brought a large envelope into my room, smiling like he had a gift for me. He sat on the edge of the bed, gently stroked my hand, and said softly, "Clara, just sign these. It's for your treatment." I looked up at him weakly and whispered, "What is it?" "You said you wanted to try a new method," he replied. "There's a clinic in St. Petersburg with modern, non-aggressive treatment. I've already made arrangements, they just need an advance." I took the envelope silently. He kissed my forehead. "Sign it when you've rested. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything." As soon as he left, I sat up and opened the envelope. Inside was a completely fake contract. The clinic didn't exist. The phone number was fake. The bank account was unfamiliar, in a stranger's name. The document would transfer nearly all of my remaining savings. He was trying to take the last thing I had. The money my mother had saved for me my whole life. And this was the rainy day. But not mine, his. I scanned every page and sent them to my lawyer. Marked, urgent. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, this was attempted fraud. That evening, Igor asked, "Did you sign?" I smiled faintly. "Tomorrow. I'm just too dizzy today." He nodded, grinning wider, and walked away. And I mentally whispered, "Not one of your moves will go unpunished." The next morning, I was at my lawyer's office with a folder of documents, scans, statements, receipts, texts, even the fake contract. Everything was dated and numbered. My lawyer skimmed through the folder, occasionally frowning. Then he looked at me and said, "Clara, we have everything we need to open a criminal case: large-scale fraud, financial abuse, attempted forgery. And given your medical condition, the judge will come down on him hard." I nodded silently. I didn't have the strength to cry anymore. Or to be angry. Only a cold determination remained. We started filing the case. While he typed, I stared out the window. It was snowing. People hurried by, and I realized, for the first time in months, I was breathing freely. When I returned home, Igor was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling on his phone. He smiled. "How are you feeling?" "Better," I replied softly. "Did you look at the documents?" "Yes, I'll sign them soon," I said with a weak smile. He nodded, pleased, and even put his hand on my shoulder. "It's all for your own good, Clara. You have to trust me." "Trust?" I almost laughed in his face but held it in. That night, I backed up all my evidence again, on a flash drive, emailed to myself and to my lawyer. If anything went wrong, it was safe. I lay down and, for the first time in a long time, fell asleep peacefully. The next few days, I acted the same weak, slow steps, a faint voice. I purposely made it look like even holding a mug was too much. Igor watched me with strange calmness, like he had already written me off in his mind. Like he was already planning a life without me. He started disappearing more often in the evenings. Said it was meetings with clients, office work, looking into new treatments. But I knew he was spending more and more time with her. Alina kept playing her part too, coming with herbal teas, saying things like, "You need to let go of negativity, forgive in your heart, cleanse the space." Sometimes she stayed longer than usual. I could hear them whispering in the hallway. Laughing. Talking in hushed tones. And I just lay there in my room, listening. And recording every detail. But the most important moment came when I caught a conversation on a hidden camera. One night, while I pretended to be asleep, Igor was talking on the phone in the kitchen. He was sure I couldn't hear him. But I was watching the live feed on my phone and heard every word. He said, "Everything's almost ready. Just waiting for the last test result. Yeah, I've already prepared the transfer documents," and then the sentence that cut like a knife, "After that, we just have to wait for her to go, and it's all ours." I gripped the phone so tightly my fingers turned white. My heart pounded in my ears. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. Now, I collected facts. Gathered evidence. Step by step. The next day, I showed the recording to my lawyer. He listened carefully. Played it back. Then looked at me and said, "Clara, now we have audio evidence. This isn't just emotional damage anymore, this is a criminal offense." I nodded. The end was near. Very near. That night, I went to bed early again. Pretended I was weak. Said I didn't want dinner, that my head was spinning, like the illness was finally winning. He looked at me almost with relief. "You should rest," he said. "I'll go get the meds." And he left. I waited until the door slammed shut. Watched from the window as his car pulled away. Then I rushed to the drawer and pulled out the documents he wanted me to sign so badly. I reread them, again confirming it was a scam. He was trying to transfer the last of my money to an outside account, disguised as an emergency clinic advanced. A fake clinic. A fake contract. I carefully placed the papers back in the envelope. Opened the folder labeled evidence on my phone. And sent my lawyer one final message, "All documents gathered. Ready. Waiting for your signal." The reply came quickly, "Perfect. Tomorrow morning we submit the official request to freeze all bank accounts and start the fraud case." I put my phone on the pillow. And for the first time in a long time, I fell asleep in peace. The next morning. Just like he promised, my lawyer filed everything. Requests to freeze the accounts. Notices to all financial institutions. Court filings to take precautionary measures. I packed a bag with my personal things and went to my sister's. Before leaving, I left Igor a note. "You thought I would leave quietly. But I decided to stay and watch you leave instead." That day, my phone blew up with calls. First the bank messaged, "Your card has been temporarily frozen at the client's request." Then my lawyer called, "It's done. He's about to find out." Half an hour later came the first text from Igor, "Clara, what's going on? What did you do?" I just turned my phone off. I sat in my sister's kitchen, poured myself a hot bowl of soup, and for the first time in forever, I ate with appetite. Because I knew, this was only the beginning of his downfall. And I would watch every second of it. Calm. Cold. Until the very end. Within 24 hours, Igor panicked. First, endless calls. Then messages, "Clara, this is a mistake. Unlock the account. You're destroying everything. Then his tone shifted. You're spiteful, vengeful. I cared for you. And finally, as I expected, threats mixed with begging, you're going to ruin me. Think about the consequences. We can fix this. But I didn't respond to a single message. The bank had fully frozen all joint accounts. Next, Igor was summoned for questioning by the financial department. Through my lawyer, I filed a case for fraud, attempted theft of funds, and large-scale breach of trust. Alina? She disappeared as soon as she found out. Changed her number. Deleted all her social media. But it didn't help. A week later, the police found her at a friend's house in the suburbs. She, too, was summoned. Igor was interrogated first. He tried to worm his way out. Blamed Alina, she pressured me. I was stressed. I didn't know what I was doing, but the investigators had everything: audio recordings. Chat screenshots. Financial transfers. Signed documents. And camera footage where he said, "Let's rush it before she stops breathing." When they read the list of charges to him, Igor turned pale. Sat down. And for the first time, was silent. Then came the trial. Several hearings. I attended each one: short hair after chemo, a simple but clean outfit, sitting tall with a cold gaze. The same look he once mistook for weakness. The verdict came a month later: 3 years in prison, no parole. Full compensation of financial damages. And a criminal record for financial fraud. Alina got 2 years probation and a fine. As Igor was led from the courtroom, he looked at me. His eyes were empty. No anger. No sadness. No hope. And I just looked back. Calmly. No tears. No shaking. Because at that moment, I knew I had won. And most importantly, I survived. After the trial, I returned to my sister's. The next morning, I went to a park I hadn't visited in months. For the first time in so long, I took a deep breath of cold winter air, with my whole chest. My latest test results showed improvement. The doctor smiled and said, "Clara, you're getting better." I nodded quietly. And thought to myself, now I know for sure. No one will ever break me again. Ever.